Shows how much I like to be involved.
Yeah.
Shows how much. All right. Now we are officially Kairos stream. Oh, stream.
Come to me, confess your love
Who's-
and to shine.
All right. Right? Are we? We are now officially live. Episode 50 for sure, right?
Brother, every time you ask me this, I never have the answer.
And you guys heard it here first. Cleon never has the answer.
Not on this one.
Never. All right, that's fine. We'll leave it like that. All right. Turn your phone on.
Phone on
Airplane mode.
D.
Do we got anything else to chat, or we just jump right in? Anything else we need to talk about?
I mean, technically, we don't ever need to talk about anything.
Yeah, that is true. We don't ever need to be yapping our yappers, but here we are. You on YouTube? Is the YouTube? Does that automatically change the title to anything, or are we gonna change it?
No, it doesn't.
Because Twitch. Whoa!
Everybody, calm down, man.
Whoa.
Everybody,
Hey, bro, I know
calm
it's been a
down.
crazy week, but don't take
I'm-
out your feelings on me, brother.
I'm chilling, man.
I don't have feelings.
Whoa, I would never say.
I'll say that about you. Don't worry.
I have them. I have feelings.
Boom, boom, boom. Episode 50. Yeah. What's her? Oh, it just says a Real Deal Podcast live show.
Yeah.
I want to put some controversy in this title. I like to stir the pot, guys. Some days. So 50 live show. No. P. 50. Boom, 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 boom. This is what happens when you hang out with Cleon. You start mumbling. Or not mumbling, humming. Mumbling, humbling.
Mumbling and humbling.
Humbling.
I live my life through music and song quotes. So
that is very true.
So it's just what I am.
All right. We'll go at 3:45. 3:45 mark.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Deal Podcast with myself, Mr. Brandon Haley, and
Mr. Cleon Deal. Happy to be back.
What up? What up?
Another week, man.
Was I here? Oh, okay. I was here last week. It just feels like it's been a long week already.
Yeah, man. You gotta get off the drugs, man. We were both right here. It's crazy.
We're both right here. It was the week before that I missed.
Correct.
So it's been a long week, man. It's been an interesting week. And we'll just jump right in. Welcome to episode 50 of the Real Deal Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What a crazy week it's been. The beginning of the week we started with I don't even remember the name, and I apologize for that. I just remember the headlines, which was rapidly taken over by another headline the very next day or 2 days later. But what happened in the beginning of the week? Let's chit chat about that first, and then we'll talk into the biggest news of today. We're going over current events, guys. If you didn't realize the things that were happening.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, it's a current event episode. So
it was
strap in.
Yeah, They're big ones, so that's why we gotta talk about them a little bit.
Right. So first, this didn't happen this week.
Yeah, I
It
did see
was
somebody say that. It was like a month
it
ago.
was August 22nd is when this happened. So yes, nearly
Okay,
a month ago.
so almost a month ago, like
Yeah,
3 weeks ago. So today's September 13th.
correct. So Arena Zarutska, I'm hoping that I'm saying that right, was stabbed in the neck on a I guess the rail station over in North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah,
Yes,
public transportation.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it sparked headlines for I honestly not 100% sure on what exactly the because obviously unfortunately murders happen on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So can you give us some insight on to why this blew up a month later as this happened?
Well, it blew up. Well, today's Saturday, so it was called about 5 days ago. So yeah, it did take a little while, like 10 to 12 days. I can't tell you why it didn't blow up immediately,
Yeah,
but I think the biggest outrageous people were talking about crime,
yeah,
black
okay.
crime,
Mhm.
and then um the liberal side of it was, or the conservative side of it was blaming the liberal side about why this guy was out and about and not locked up because he had had so many priors. So
Right.
violence happening, that's crazy. I mean, the video is very disturbing, and it's very unfortunate. Social media does do a lot of great things, but it's very unfortunate that we have access to
Watch people die.
and just start to become so desensitized to it.
Yeah.
And that is the worst part. um there I don't think the guy should have been free.
Well,
12 priors. I didn't really look into the priors, but
well, yeah, it's one of those things to where obviously anybody who's been locked up or it was 14, I believe. He had 14 mugshots.
just that's
So I
yeah,
guess this is
that's a
number
lot.
14.
Mhm.
So 13 prior arrests.
Yeah.
He apparently was mentally diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Hmm.
And apparently there was also a drug problem which he was supposed to be in some sort of rehab for. So
Supposed to be.
yeah, supposed to be. So I believe that part of the story was that after the last arrest, he was ordered to attend rehab, but there was some delay in the portion of him getting
Hmm.
there prior to whatever sentencing or whatever the case is, and he was out free during this time, and then this is when this happened. Now
I didn't look at any of the records, to be honest. Like I don't really like to focus so much on these kind of
that's fine.
negative
I
things.
went and looked at it.
Yeah,
It's
because they're
fine.
like, I don't know. Just don't like it. Were any of them violent or aggressive behavior
Yeah.
arrest?
So it's yeah,
So
so
yeah.
it was there was some armed robbery, there was felony larceny, a few just misdemeanors for erratic behavior. I believe there was also where his sister or something like that called the police on him for aggravated assault. So I want to say he had maybe two or three that were
Already aggressive.
violence,
Yeah.
whereas the other ones were more basically kind of like a disturbing the peace sort of thing and stuff like that, which obviously would explain why he wasn't spending that much time in jail for those things. But obviously, things like aggravated assault, and obviously, but also
Mhm.
the other part of it is that
But if you
his mental state.
Yeah, but if you've been
Um,
arrested 14 times, at what point?
mhm.
I mean, somebody that is like that far gone, like it's going to take a
Yeah.
lot to save them. But at the end of the day, like the judge that is allowing him to be bonded out is the one who should be
Well,
held accountable
there
and
was
be
like there was
responsible.
a bunch of them. So that's what I was. So it seems like
I
there
guess
it certainly
the
just
last two.
yeah, it certainly just wasn't one that was this, but
Mhm.
that's kind of the thing, I guess, because I don't know 100% too much about how the legal system works, but
Yeah.
obviously when you're in jail for a bunch of misdemeanors,
Hmm.
as full as prisons are, they don't want to hold you because we need space for the people who are committing things like murder. So when you have a misdemeanor for disturbing the peace, they're not going to keep you there. You have an aggravated assault. Okay, so what was the aggravated assault? Somebody had a few bruises.
Well,
Oh, you didn't kill anybody.
aggravated
Yeah.
assault, like it could go as far as you threatening somebody with a gun or a weapon too. Like that's aggravated assault.
Yeah.
Like from a firearm carry
Yeah.
standpoint, if you see my firearm, like that could be aggravated assault, or if I tell you, like I'm going to use my firearm against you or something like that,
Yeah.
things like that.
So they're not going to hold you for that long when it's something like that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
but
saying?
I think it comes to a point like after there's so many.
Oh yeah, I agree. He
Yeah.
should have been somewhere else. I
there should be a
certainly.
limit to where, like, bro, after 5 times, it's like after you get arrested one time, maybe even 2 times, like you should kind of be smart enough to be like, all right, hey, let's not do this. But the fact that he had so many, and they're just, yeah, let's just keep throwing them back out there. Let's
Well,
see what happens.
because the issue is that, and this is probably one of the larger issues in this country currently, is that there's no real place for people to go for mental health issues when they don't really have any control over doing it themselves. Like me and you, because we're
Mhm.
not clinically diagnosed with something crazy, we can go to BetterHelp and go
Yeah.
to therapy.
Mhm.
He was diagnosed with schizophrenia in the beginning of the year. He was
Mhm.
arrested for misusing 911 because he kept calling the police saying that there was a man-made material that was controlling his body. So when that's where the point that we're at, this country doesn't have anything to say, okay, so you need to be placed here until we can kind of get you okay to be out among people again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
But
because
somebody knew all of that and still was like, you're okay to be out with regular people.
well, it doesn't seem like they did. It seems like in July they ordered a competency evaluation because of that case in January, but it wasn't completed basically at that point. And so without it, I guess without that evaluation, they don't get to determine because that is due process, right? You know, they're ordered that you have to go and complete that before we make a determination on if you're fit or not. So while they're waiting for that, just like anything else, you're out free until it's time to be sentenced. So like I said, there's no good in between place to put people, and so they're allowed to roam freely. And there are a lot of people that are still out right now freely who probably have a similar situation to this. So I agree he should have been somewhere, certainly not free, but there wasn't any. They we don't have an in between place to put people for stuff like that,
So
and that's a
just,
problem.
keep them locked up.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but like you said, obviously depending on whatever town that Mecklenburg County, as full as prisons are, Mecklenburg is in the heart of North Carolina.
Mhm.
So obviously, where Charlotte and every places like that are.
So that just shows people that how much crime they could get away with if it's so full. Then
Yeah.
it's just going to keep being like, oh, hey, they don't even have the space to hold me, so I can get away with all this
Yeah,
crime.
but
So
yeah, but
it's good.
we've been known that. You know what I'm saying? That they've been talking about how full prisons are, so they
Mhm.
can't afford to hold non-violent criminals. And so since he wasn't committing violent offenses at that point, he was just calling the police and saying, "Hey, I have stuff in my body," and they arrested him for that. It was like, well, we can't keep him here for that.
I would be interested to know what are the statistics of people that have 10 plus priors, schizophrenia, and have all these mental issues. What is the statistic that they actually go out and commit a violent crime?
That's a very good question.
I would say you would think it might be a little high, right? So I think you use your brain a little bit and be like, hey, if there is a history of this kind of behavior causing this kind of crime, maybe we shouldn't let them back
Right.
out on the streets.
But where's the law that says that's what I'm saying? Because people who get put in jail is because they committed a crime.
Yeah,
So
and that's
I'm
why they
saying,
have a judge.
yeah,
And then they were also saying that those judges, I didn't look into this, but I have a lot of friends, liberal and conservative, and they have all had a lot of
I don't even know why this is a liberal
viewpoints.
conservative issue. This is a mental health issue.
Well, because it is, but then it goes into they're talking about the judges didn't have law degrees, so the judges are
Yeah.
in charge of the law and they're supposed to have a law degree.
Well,
So then it goes into DEI hires and it goes into that.
no.
And
So
everything anybody can make
so
everything
here's
political.
right. So here's what the problem is. Because I saw a lot of that as well. And
Mhm.
I looked into it. There's a few states that do not require you to have a law degree to be a judge.
Okay.
So
That
that's
was
the
my next
state.
question. When somebody said that, I was like, is that a requirement?
Not
I know
everywhere.
I know you need a law degree to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about being a judge, to
Yeah.
be honest.
So it's not required in certain states. So you know, that's the system.
Are those states where it's not required liberal or conservative?
Let's
That'd be the next
let's do.
We don't really do research into politics like this, guys. We don't really care about politics that much. But it comes to a point when things like this happen and people try and twist it on whatever it may be. point blank period, a crazy person was let out and on the loose and killed an innocent person, unfortunately.
So,
And it, that's what happens
so
sometimes.
many states do not require a law degree to become a judge in lower level courts, including Arizona, which I believe is a red state, Montana, which is a red state, and Texas, where non-judge
think it's a
lawyers
red state.
often, we're all non-lawyer judges, often called magistrates or justices of the peace, preside over cases like misdemeanors, which is what he had for the most part, were misdemeanors, evictions, and civil disputes. So
aggravated assault, I think, is
correct. So I believe there was maybe one case of aggravated assault, but like I said, I don't know what the severity of it was. So obviously, you go and do jail for 2-3 years and then you're back out again. So these are states where it's not required for that. So this isn't a DEI hire situation. It's a state thing. So because there are lower level things that they were being convicted of, misdemeanors, then judges who do not have a law degree are allowed to preside over that. And then this is kind of what happens.
So you think he should have been locked up or not locked up?
Anybody with 12 prior arrests, if you have 12 mugshots, I think you should be. But like I said, the problem is that the law, if you're not committing crimes that carry a sentencing, misdemeanors for the most part don't really carry a bunch of sentencing. So that's kind of what the problem is. So if that's not the case, is in order to be fair and give due process in terms of what the law dictates, I can't put you in jail for that because the law says I can't. So if you're practicing, that's kind of what the thing is. I agree he shouldn't have been free, but if by the law standards and you're practicing the law, I don't know how much your personal judgment is allowed to come into place when it comes to something like it. Because personally, I'm like, hey, bro, we got to keep you somewhere until we can figure this out. I feel like he should have been kept somewhere until it was time for his competency hearing, and then from there we can determine whether he's a danger to other people on the street or not.
So what the story on this, the narrative on this story, what is the narrative that you've seen the most on that story?
So the narrative that it was is that he killed her because she was white.
Okay, yeah.
And that's so they were calling this a racial killing. And so
I mean, maybe.
Because basically
he's mentally unstable.
Correct.
So maybe he doesn't like the white girl.
Well, the thing is, there was a video where apparently he said, "Oh, she called me the N-word," and something like that, and that's why, or whatever. But he's schizophrenic.
Yeah. So anything that he says is literally like,
unfortunately, it's not. You can't even be held liable in court.
Yeah.
He's insane.
Yeah, and to just get up and do that randomly is crazy. It's a crazy video.
Yeah.
Video. Do not watch it because unless you want to get angry, do not watch it. I was talking to a black person, and I ain't gonna say no names. We were talking about this story, and we were talking about, obviously there's gonna be crime everywhere. Like there's stuff that we see, there's stuff that we see on the internet, there's crime that we don't see. But he was talking about how when it all happened, she's Ukrainian, right? So
yes,
she's
a Ukrainian refugee.
So she's not like born in the U.S. She escaped Ukraine war to be safer, but obviously, clearly,
right,
that didn't happen.
Yeah,
that's life sometimes, unfortunately. But we're talking about it how she was the only white person on the back of the bus, right?
Yeah, Mecklenburg County.
I've never been there. I have.
It's a predominantly black area.
But basically, he was like, had the roles have been reversed, and that was a white man killing a black female, and everybody in the back of the bus was white, and just watching, how outraged would the media have been? How many riots? How much looting? How many things would be burned down? Had the roles been switched like that?
Well, yeah, and that's a fair question. But the fact of the matter, whenever I see things like that and something happens to somebody and other people are there, and don't really step into it, it's one of those things where it depends on who's there, because if it's a fight or flight response, if it's not in your nature to go and step up and help somebody, it's self-preservation. I see that this person has no problem with me as of now, and they're clearly out of their mind.
Yeah.
Do I want to risk my life for this stranger that's sitting across from me, at that point. Now, and obviously I don't know how much they could have done to obviously prevent her from dying, because it's not like there was a escalation to it, right?
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It was just, it was quick.
yeah, it
So
was boom, 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 done.
so I don't know if they can stop him from doing it, that maybe restrain him after this happens. But
yeah, that part, I say the correct thing to be done was nobody ran up to her to help her. That was the sad part. That was the bad part.
And that's the thing though, because I guess because of the weapon that he had, it was very tough to see that he actually had a knife.
Exactly what happened too. Yeah.
So if you think that she's just getting hit, you don't know she's bleeding out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, until you actually see it. But also, once again, the other thing is like, obviously, I would probably say, "Hey, are you okay?"
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
I think I watched the video at the beginning of the week, so I think predominantly there was males back there.
Yeah.
So I just think, as a male, if you see another male hit or attack a female, like, as a male, you are responsible to go and help that female.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
That's how I feel.
Let's
like,
talk about
if you see that a male attacking a female, like, you at least go ask her if she's okay or something.
Sure. And sure, yes, definitely go and ask her if she's okay. But as far as stopping an attack, people lose their lives over things like that. And so that it goes back to the question of, am I willing to risk my life for this person whom I've never met? Like, if you have a wife and children to get home to,
okay, that's
you know what I'm
story,
saying?
did they all?
And you die trying to protect this woman that you don't know, and you get back and you don't get to come back home to your family.
It depends on if it's the right thing to do or not.
I mean, I agree. It's always going to be the right thing to do.
Right.
I'm just saying these are the things that people take into consideration.
Right. But if I just see a random thing, it's just like in Ybor, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are emotionally unstable men, and you can see them, and they'll
Absolutely
like have altercations, verbal altercations with females. Sometimes it's like, I'm not just going to pretend I don't see it. I'm going to look and see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to check up on it.
Obviously, something building up in that point to be like, let me make sure, like, this guy. Well, do we got to intervene? Whatever it may be.
Yeah,
so
and that's what we do.
Exactly. I just think at the very least that's what a male. When you see another male attack a female, at the very least, go and check. That's what. And in that video, nobody really did that.
Yeah, which is true.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she died.
But yeah.
It was a very crazy week with deaths and public deaths. That one was very, very insane. But everything is over with. You can't bring people back to life. We're not Jesus, unfortunately. And may God be with her family and all the other people that had to witness and have trauma with that. And that would lead us into the another death this week. I think it was like a day later, 2 days later. And this one was crazy because a lot of people knew this guy and a lot of people had a lot of opinions. And for those who don't know, Charlie Kirk, 31 years old. His last name is Kirk, correct? Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
31-year-old, married, 2 kids. Not technically a politician, but very political, I would say.
He was a podcast. I think he had like a podcast mainly was his thing. Yeah. And then he would host forums and stuff like that.
So he was very vocal in that, and very conservative, where liberals didn't really like him. But from what I saw, one of his main messages was to have political, not always political, but mostly political debates on college campuses.
Yeah.
And the reason why he wanted to do that was, and I watched all these videos after his death. There was maybe 1 to 2 videos that I've seen on my feed before, and I've watched the whole thing because they were very entertaining. Like, not like entertaining, like I was laughing at either side, but like entertaining where it's like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool conversation. One guy's sitting down debating other people that keep coming up to him, and then he's just kind of
talking about that round table thing, that round table series. Yeah, they have a few of those.
So I would see those. But yeah, his whole ideology was that he wanted to do that because he thought that unfortunately, when 2 conflicting sides stop talking, that's when violence happened. And I saw that message over and over and over again as to why he was doing what he was doing.
Mhm.
On top of that, I saw a lot of things about how religious he was. And then at time of his death, the stories were really crazy. So I guess before we get into the radicalized movements and sides of each party, what are your thoughts on what happened? Oh, and then the conspiracies.
I mean, the thoughts. I mean, obviously, I, I'm never the guy that's gonna be like happy anybody dies. I don't know,
Okay, so
but it's not really my thing.
let's
But
talk about that then.
yeah, sure.
Um, those of you that don't know, I mean, I guess everybody knows. He died at a college rally
In
event
Utah.
in Utah from a sniper about 200 meters out,
Mhm.
which is a very difficult shot to
Well,
make
the thing is, apparently, from what I've seen, when snipers are talking about it, it's not a difficult shot, according to people who are snipers.
from a sniper.
Yes, they're
All
saying
right,
that.
we'll get into that when we talk about the
Yeah,
conspiracy.
okay.
But let's talk about the part where people are actually celebrating
Mhm.
this man's death.
Yeah.
I didn't know too much about him until he passed away.
Mhm.
And I did learn that he is a Ducks fan. I'm a Ducks fan, so go Ducks. Um, hate me if you want to hate me, but I've been a Ducks fan, and I found out he's a Ducks fan because his wife just did the whole eulogy the whole eulogy speak to the nation thing yesterday.
Mhm.
But yeah, how have you? I know me and Cleo were talking about this most of the week, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really like go on social media and just look at people being negative and stuff." But did you see any of that? Like
Yeah.
people, and what are your thoughts on them?
So here's my thoughts on it. It's unfortunate, but it's not uncommon.
Okay, I agree.
So
I agree.
people have been celebrating people's deaths for years on social
And
media.
that's exactly what I was saying too, and I always kept bringing up the George Floyd thing.
Yeah, they do you know that they're still making they made an AI video of
Yeah.
George Floyd talking. This was recently. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
5 years ago.
I agree. Yeah,
So
I've seen it.
so I'm like, people have been doing this. So
Mhm.
to act like this is suddenly a new thing or that anybody's going to be exempt
Mhm.
from this, it like I said, it is unfortunate, but why are we acting like
It's new. It's not. I
it's
agree.
not?
I agree. Just like regardless of the situation, a human died. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really shy away from conversation in the DM. So when I see somebody post something
Mhm.
and you can be indifferent about somebody dying. Someone can die and you cannot care. Somebody can be murdered and you
Mhm.
cannot care. That's fine. That is between you and your beliefs. When you go, and this goes to both sides, and this is how I was the conversation I was having. Once you go to the next level and you want to celebrate somebody's death,
Mhm.
let's go back to George Floyd. When George Floyd died, even when I was bringing it up the other day, and someone still wanted to be like, "Oh, the cop didn't kill him; he died from drugs," and that's still going to be a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
But would he, if he did drugs and died on his own, it would have been okay, right?
Mhm.
But because he was on drugs and a cop was on top of him, he died from that. So like that's going to be the thing that people talk about.
Yeah.
And people would make fun of it because of he was a criminal or he was on drugs, he shouldn't
Mhm.
have been arrested, yada yada yada. Same thing that conservatives did then, liberals are doing hardcore now. It's not right either time,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Mhm.
People are going to do it, yes, but I think regardless of the fact, like I'm still going to be there to call them out on that.
Right.
You shouldn't be
So
celebrating a death.
so can we so which I agree with. Now there's a unfortunately there's a slight difference in kind of these two situations.
Yep.
Because before this happened, nobody knew who George Floyd was, right? He wasn't
Correct.
anybody to piss anybody off.
Mhm.
He wasn't there for anybody to choose sides on what they
Mhm.
felt about them.
Yep.
He was somebody who died as a case of whatever you decide on why he died, but he died there in the public eye. And then basically, obviously, there were the protests and the riots because of it. But all he did, unfortunately, was die. And then people had those strong opinions. The difference here is that Charlie Kirk unfortunately offended a lot of people and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, I'm once again, I'm not the person to celebrate anybody's death,
Right.
but when obviously you hurt and offend a group of people for to be surprised that they when you actually do that, when people were celebrating when somebody had no information on you prior and people were doing it then.
Well,
I'm
the
like, how the hell?
information they got was that he was black and he was a criminal and he was on drugs.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But
So they were
nothing,
trying to side
prior
with
to
the
his
cops.
death. What I'm saying is here,
Correct.
obviously, there's been years that Charlie
Mhm.
Kirk has been in the public eye where he's had a lot of time to either inspire a lot of people or piss off a lot of people. And so obviously,
And from what
people,
I've seen both.
yeah, correct. And I've seen both. So for people to have an actual it makes sense that people have some sort of reaction to his death afterwards because you were aggravating them for this long or hurting, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what the difference is. But in either case, like I said, I'm never going to be a person to celebrate something like that.
So there's the quote everyone's posting the quotes,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure if you've seen it, and then if you watch the video.
Mhm.
One of the quotes was about gun violence and the
Mhm.
Second Amendment rights, and the other one was about empathy.
Mhm.
And have you seen what people are like the liberals have posted about those two quotes, saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to empathize with this person. He thought empathy was a new age word," or he
Yeah.
also said in a clip how certain or that the Second Amendment right is worth to have a couple deaths.
Yeah. So yeah,
right?
you sent me the video on the Second Amendment one, which kind of gave the full context of that. But for the
right,
second one, for the
everybody was chopping
empathy,
it up.
I
There-
don't know what
there-
the full context of that
so let's
is.
talk about it. People are talking about the empathy thing. So he did say like empathy is like a new age word. Oh god, it just literally ran away from my head. But empathy is a new age word. Basically, that's where they get it cut off. Like I don't have empathy because it's a new age word. Oh, this is what it was. He was saying rather you should have sympathy because empathy means that you know exactly what somebody else can feel. And he was saying you can never know, regardless of if you have the same situation or the same things happen to you, you will never know how it feels to be in someone else's shoes. Sympathy, you can sympathize for them. And that was like the gist of the video. So he was basically saying like empathy is a dumb word to use because I can never feel exactly what you're feeling, especially with Cleon, because he has no feelings and I have a lot of feelings. I'm just kidding. But sympathy, you can feel for somebody. So that was the gist. Why I don't always agree with that. You know, I think that you can empathize with people and then you can have sympathy for people. And I would take it a step further and say that I believe that empathy is better than sympathy because if you feel bad for somebody, that's just feeling bad for them. But when you empathize with somebody, you try and see life from their point of view.
Mhm.
That's my opinion on those two words. His opinion, but people just try to make it and construe it to where like he's like, oh, I don't have empathy.
Mhm.
So I thought that was really stupid.
Mhm.
People are stupid.
Well, yeah,
We say this all the time. Guys are really stupid. And then when things like this happen and people want to get all political and be so extreme to one side, they become really stupid. And then the gun one,
Mhm.
I thought that this was a great video. I saw that
Mhm.
full video. Basically what was making the analogy of driving vehicles, right?
Well, yeah. So he was talking about basically the freedom to drive. Obviously, I think he said there was about 50,000 deaths due to car accidents per year.
Mhm.
But that's the price that unfortunately has to be paid for us to be able to drive.
And get
Okay.
to places faster. And
Mm.
nobody blinks an eye about that.
Yeah,
They're like,
correct.
that's a worthy sacrifice to be able to drive a vehicle.
Yeah, and what it obviously is a little bit different from this because
Mhm.
these are car accidents versus in most cases with gun violence, you're going to find somebody to hurt them.
But he does say that what was the Second Amendment right created to protect us against?
Correct. He said from a tyrannical government. Sure.
Yeah. So I think the government, this is why I don't like politics. I think the government already is like untrustworthy. You can't really trust the government, regardless of whoever it was. If it's going to be Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and there's always going to be things that aren't that they have control over so much stuff that we don't know, and we just
So
let them feed us and say yes.
let me ask this though, because obviously he was somebody who was very vocal about his political stance
Mhm.
and how much his feelings toward the U.S. government and
Mhm.
his appreciation for it.
For Donald Trump.
Right,
Yeah.
for Donald Trump, and obviously there, as things have been
Mhm.
going, there's a whiff of tyranny in the air
Mhm.
as certain things are getting rescinded, certain things are being opposed, and certain bills are being passed.
Yeah.
But that's the government that he supported.
So
So
I
you know what I'm
also
saying?
watched a video on this. So if I didn't know Charlie Kirk before this, guys, like
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
watched, I saw a video. I didn't know his name. I saw a video of students debating him, and the one thing that I enjoyed was how he always had an answer, and that answer is correct to him based on his viewpoint. You know what I'm saying? So I really did enjoy that part. Um, this week, obviously, I learned so much more about him because all the videos that come up, people are going crazy. Um, but the video where there was like he like shed a tear when Donald Trump got elected. Obviously, that's a little weird. Like, I'm not going to
Mhm.
do that. But somebody had asked him why, and he was like, it wasn't just because Donald Trump had got elected. It was just because the administration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were trying to put him in jail because of some reason. I haven't done a lot of research on it. That was just a video I watched of him explaining
Mhm.
why he was so boisterous in supporting Donald Trump was because of that. Because his whole life, I mean, his wife's life dramatically changed this weekend or this week, but like his whole livelihood could have changed because they were trying to put him in jail over what he was doing. And that was
Over.
mostly why he was so support, or that was I can't even say that's why he was supportive. That is the reason why he was caught shedding a tear when Donald Trump got elected.
So that's interesting to me
Mhm.
because I've seen videos about him being adamantly against things like sexual assault,
Mhm.
adamantly against certain things that it doesn't seem like when this administration was
Mhm.
put into place that they prioritize. So if the only reason, and that's kind of, I guess, me not being a political person, obviously, I'm not having try. I don't have anybody trying to put me in jail. But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
the other option is the people who go against the things that I believe a government should be, I don't know which one you choose at that point. You know what I'm
Well, I guess
saying?
the one that gives him his freedom,
I guess the one that gives them
the one
freedom,
that
but
doesn't sense for him.
if your freedom comes at the cost of
Mhm.
your views being directly opposed, like if I have
Mhm.
a large issue with something,
But his views wouldn't, like if he was in jail, he wouldn't be able to share his views.
sure, maybe he wouldn't be. But like I said,
And Democrats choosing Kamala Harris, that was a terrible job on behalf of the Democratic Party. Like, why would you choose somebody that wasn't even chosen?
what do you mean choose somebody that wasn't chosen?
They weren't chosen by the people, like a democracy. Like she didn't get voted in to run for president when that happened. So
Who?
they were just like Kamala Harris. That's what I'm talking about.
I think I'm confusing what you're saying.
Saying nobody voted Kamala to be the presidential elect or the presidential running mate. Nobody voted for her from the Democratic Party to be the person that they were going to vote for. Joe Biden was supposed to be that person, right? You don't remember? Hey, go ahead.
I
You don't?
don't.
Do you not remember last or whatever year it was election, the most recent election, right?
Mhm.
Why was Kamala Harris the person that Democrats were voting for?
Maybe I missed this. I don't know. Why you tell me? I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
you didn't know that? Oh, so it was supposed to be Joe Biden, but after he lost that debate to Trump so bad, they removed him and just they chose Kamala. She wasn't voted in. They chose her to be the Democratic Party running person.
Yeah,
And that was a terrible pick,
I would
my
need
opinion.
to I would obviously need
Oh,
to
you didn't.
see kind of whatever the story is on
That's all
that.
right.
That's not something
That's a
I'm
story for
that
another
aware
day.
of.
But anyways, they I'm just saying they picked a bad person to run against Trump, and that person, aka Kamala, was not chosen by the people. She was chosen by the government to run against Trump.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
okay.
But
This is why we don't talk about
yeah.
politics because we really don't know. You know what I'm
So
saying?
okay, so yeah, back to what you were saying, obviously. Yeah, so
Mhm.
he shedding a tear because he said that they were trying to put him in jail. I'm sorry, where were you? I interrupted, but where were you going with that portion?
No, that was it. I was just
Okay.
you were explaining what his political
Great.
support,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of giving what I saw from it. In that story that he had shared.
Okay.
So, and then I was saying it's not like he could have supported the other side because it wasn't like that person was even voted in. It's not like that. It's not like
Mhm.
people wanted her.
Yeah, but was he going to vote Democratic anyway?
Who knows? I don't know.
I don't.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. But if you just pick somebody like Kamala,
Sure.
yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
you're not going to.
I don't know.
You're
So-
not going to have a very good chance of swaying the in-betweeners like Elon Musk and those kind of people.
Well, Elon Musk is. I don't.
Different
I
breed,
wouldn't. I
too.
wouldn't say he's an in betweener. I'd say he's opportunist.
He used to be a
Um,
registered Democrat.
Yeah, but obviously the opportunity arose, and then he switched, and then obviously they had a falling out, and then the opportunity came, and then he switched again, and then, unfortunately,
Elon's
he's
doing Elon thing.
yeah.
Man.
Well, that's another story for another day.
That's another story.
So my I guess what I hate, and I use hate as a strong word, but I hate when people die and the first thing that people have to do is go get their content off.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's probably was my least favorite part about this whole thing, because
Mhm.
immediately after it happened, the term that was being used and thrown around was civil war,
Yeah.
and people talking about how whoever they are, they did this and they're trying to do X, Y, and Z. And obviously, me being the person who asks questions, I'm like, well, do we know who did it yet?
Mhm.
No. Have we talked? So obviously, if we don't know who did it, that means we haven't talked to them, asked why they did it. Correct. So
But
how does it,
quote unquote, at this point in time, we do know.
right now, but
Technically.
as soon as it happened, there were millions of videos that were uploaded and people crying online saying, oh, he was killed by the other side because
Yeah.
of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, guys, we don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
historically, that's a bad guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what the government wants you to think, right?
What he wants you to think what?
So you have the conservatives blaming the liberals,
Yeah.
right? The liberals, the all right. So when I say conservatives and liberals, I'm talking about the extremists, the extremes on both sides.
Mhm.
The extreme conservative blaming the liberals. Then you got the liberals celebrating.
Mhm.
So what is that going to create more of? Not more unity, that's for sure. It's going to create more division.
Sure.
Because you got somebody that's on the conservative side assassinated and all the liberals celebrating.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, you guys did this.
But
So
how?
that's why it's going to create a civil
But
war.
common sense says that obviously because it for one side to be talking to create a narrative about who did it versus another side celebrating that it happened is those are two different fights that
And
we're
then-
fighting.
That's where the conspiracy comes in. Who would want to create more division in the United States with the midterm elections coming up?
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk advocating for the non-existent Epstein files to be released.
Mhm.
That same day he died, there was supposed to be a hearing that didn't get passed for the Epstein files. There was a lot of weird things going on, and then they're like, they got the shooter, quote unquote, the shooter,
Mhm.
a 22-year-old kid.
Mhm.
He jumped out. Have you seen the build?
Yeah.
Okay, he jumped off. He's supposedly had the rifle in his pants, or he folded it up.
Well,
put it
they
in his
said he had,
backpack.
he was walking with, they apparently got him on camera walking with the rifle basically
But
in
did
his
you see
pant
when
leg.
he jumped off?
He jumped down.
Where's
Yes.
the rifle at that point?
Correct.
In the backpack?
So typically what I've seen on TV and shows that I watch where
Mm-hmm.
typically what'll happen is after a sniper shoots the gun, they will disassemble the rifle and put it back to wherever it is that they took it out of. So they're not walking around with a large gun. Now, obviously, then the conspiracy was that they apparently found the gun perfectly assembled in the woods
Yeah.
somewhere. And I'm like, well, why would he take it apart, put it into a bag, run away, reassemble it, and then leave it in the woods?
And then
Why would that make sense?
Cleon's attacking me again, guys. He is so mad with everything that happened this week.
Yeah, I'm super broken up about it.
That's where the conspiracy comes in. And you know me, this is how we started all those years ago. Was like we're talking a lot about conspiracies too at the time with Pizzagate and the crazy demonic satanic rituals that Hollywood was doing, and the Out of Shadows video and all that crazy stuff. So if the government has an agenda and they want something to be done, unfortunately, I mean, that's what it is. I think it would be very sad to use him for that. But that was also a conspiracy of like, how could he do it? And how could it be articulate or orchestrated to be just a one-man band? Because
Mhm.
then did you see the the other video that supports the conspiracy theories of the guy that was standing to his back, right? Who like did the little baseball, moves and like touches. That could be nothing. But it was also like.
And then you have some old guy in the crowd screaming, "I would do it again too," and then they arrest him, thinking that they have the shooter.
Create a diversion.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would somebody setting this up want us to think and believe? They would want us to create more division. So it's like, just don't believe everything that you hear at once.
Well, yeah, that's why whenever things get presented to me, I'm like, well, what happened? What do we know for sure? Right. And that's why that goes back to, like I said, what my issue is that when people come, the first thing that when something happens is people come and create their own narrative, because we have to be the first person to get a video off. When you know absolutely no facts about what happened, then what exactly are we doing? Right. We're in the age of misinformation, where because people have a camera phone and I can just say anything.
And you can just literally. And that's dangerous sometimes. That's dangerous.
Not sometimes. It's most of the time, because obviously when you have people who are very far on one side, obviously when the first thing, their first initial thing is violence. Yeah. Oh, there was okay. So now we got to go to war. War. We don't even know who did it. And like I said, statistically, if we're gonna take a guess about who shot him, it was every political, well, not every, I don't know about every, I won't say every, but most of any sort of political assassinations or attempts to assassination have been Republican white men. So I'm like, so for us to guess that now it's the opposite of that, especially in Utah, I'm like, if I had to guess who it was based off of historical evidence, I wouldn't assume that there was somebody on the other side. Because even the person who apparently shot at Donald Trump was a Republican leaning person, or conservatively, whatever the term is for that. So I'm like, why would the assumption be
Donald Trump is a Republican, or AKA conservative?
Yeah. Yeah. And so the person who apparently shot him was also that. So that's what I'm like, historically, that's who's usually shooting at political figures, usually.
Don't believe everything you see or hear. The conspiracies are pretty interesting, and I watched a lot of videos that were talking about it. Just we're not really going to get the truth, but we have this quote unquote truth that the government has pushed onto us, which is that it was 22-year-old white male. And it's so funny being a white male. It's so funny to see other not white people, Hispanic people, Black. I don't think I see too many Black people post about it, but it's usually like Hispanic people or women posting how, oh, look, it was a white man that did it. I just think that that's really funny, because they think that all white people blame other races for violence. No, if you want to act up and commit violent crime, you're going to act up and commit a violent crime, regardless of what you are or who you're. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. There was some controversial things that Charlie Kirk has said, and from what I've seen, he doesn't seem too bad of a guy. Obviously, I never met him in person, so I can't tell you my discernment on meeting him and knowing. But if from the people that cared about him, he was a man of faith, man of God. There are plenty videos of him preaching the gospel and talking about God open and publicly. So for that part, I do think that is the reason why I think that he's a good person. Well, doesn't necessarily mean it's correct.
Well, that's the.
I would also have to meet him to know, because I can meet a lot of people and I can know whether I'm not going to give you too much of my time, or I'd be like, you could. Once you have a lot of discernment, you can meet somebody in person and kind of know whether or not that they're a good person. So not all the time.
Let's talk about that, right? So the Christian values, right? So obviously, in both of our walks of faith, we've been, kind of in these things for, however long now. And so at this point, we understand the difference between being a Christian versus being like Christ. Is that there's a large difference, right? In the Bible, they give examples of like the Pharisees, right? When the woman who was caught committing adultery, and they dragged her out and said that she should be stoned because that's what the rules were at the time. And so at that point is when Jesus got down into the sand, started basically what the inclination is that he was writing down what their sins were and
Yeah.
said, he who was without sin cast the
Mhm.
first stone, right? And so at that point, they dispersed, obviously told her to go and sin no more after that. But that's the difference between being a Christian and writing down all the rules and going by whatever
Oh yeah, no, I
so
definitely agree.
so
Mama Deal said turn up my mic.
well, yeah, I think you might need to get close. I'll turn it up. I got you.
I don't know.
Um,
I thought I was close
well,
enough.
it was a little bit far. I got you. I
Oh
probably
well,
should have turned
we're better, Mama Deal. I think we're better.
Yeah, I hear you better.
Hopefully, well, we'll just turn up the volume when we go and post the episode.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. Because there's bad people in churches nowadays. So I'm not saying just because he claims to be Christian. I'm saying how he talks about his walk with Christ and how
Mhm.
Christ saved his life. How he talks about it.
Right.
That doesn't always mean, yeah, I agree with you. That doesn't always mean,
Mhm.
because there are false prophets, there are people in the church that
Mhm.
claimed one thing and they live a different life. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people that claim to be one way and live in a different way. And yeah, not everybody in the church is a good person. I
Right.
100% agree with you on that.
So I guess more so the point that I was getting at is that when your pastor was here, he
Mhm.
talked about basically your walk in faith is most implemented not by the rules that you're adhering by, but how you treat God's people.
Yep.
Right. So when obviously, like you said, you watched a decent amount of videos, and
Yeah, this week.
there's obviously some things that he said about certain groups of
Mhm.
people that would emulate that he has a certain bias or
Like what?
prejudice.
Like what?
If I see a black pilot, I hope he's qualified because I think he may have only gotten the job because of DEI. Or
Well, because that was an issue, right?
well, DEI, if you understand
Mhm.
what it is, it's not I give you the job because you're black. It's I don't not give you the job because you're black.
Technically,
The problem,
but people weren't doing enough due diligence, so they were just hiring to just check mark something.
who's based off of, I'm trying to figure out what that part of it is based,
Mhm.
because if we're talking about the Federal Aviation Administration, because he was very, for whatever, the
Well,
pilot example
that's
was the biggest thing.
exactly because of what happened at the beginning of the year with all the crashes, aviation crashes.
Right. But the thing is,
I would imagine that's
I
why
don't-
he was talking about.
right, but I don't so this is why we have to kind of do research on things, because plane
Yeah.
crashes multiple
Mhm.
times happen every year. But for whatever you're right, it does seem like it
Mhm.
was very much publicized, way more all of a sudden than they usually are. But these aren't, unfortunately, they're not.
Mhm.
Millions of flights take off every year. The idea that crashes aren't going to, because we have maybe like we heard about probably 4 or 5
Mhm.
maybe of them. So it seemed like there was a lot of them happening.
Mhm.
But
Did you watch
obviously-
a video of him saying that?
What?
Of like, oh, I'm going to not think that they're qualified.
Yeah. He said that basically on his podcast, and
Mhm.
he said it basically in his, that was his main example for something like
Well,
that.
aviation.
So,
Yeah.
so the
Well, that's
idea,
such a big thing if you have somebody flying a plane that's unqualified. Yes.
right? But that's what I'm saying though. So the idea that the Federal Aviation Administration will let somebody through without having to go through the same protocols, the same
Mhm.
simulations, the same tests that everybody else has to go through just because they're black, to give them that spot, to me is an insane thing. That shows that your lack of
would.
trust in your administration.
I would hope not.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's the part of
Mhm.
it that's a little odd to me, because I'm like, why would you
Mhm.
assume that they still don't have to go through the proper tests
Mhm.
just because they're black? Like I said, the purpose of DEI was that if I have 2 resumes sitting in front of me, one with the name Sarah Birchmeyer and the
Mhm.
other one says Keisha Jackson, if Keisha Jackson's is more qualified, I don't go with Sarah Birchmeyer because I don't like the way Keisha Jackson's name sound.
But
That's what the purpose of that is.
It should be, right? And that was also what he was saying, is he wanted people more qualified. He was in some videos saying that diversity doesn't mean that you're going to do a better job. Unity means you're going to do a better job.
Right,
Like
but
unity, working as a team.
But not being diverse doesn't mean you're going to do a better job either.
I agree. That was, I saw some, I didn't see the video of him saying that. Yeah, that might be a little,
Well, it gets
little
worse
out there. That makes it, but he was preaching that like the most qualified should be in roles.
Yeah, but like I said, but if your initial thought is that when you see somebody black, they're not qualified because they're black, that's when it starts to get a little bit problematic.
I don't say I agree with everything you said.
No, yeah,
that's
I
for sure.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't agree with that, because now you're going to get in people's head. of like, oh, when you see a black person, now I gotta automatically think if they're qualified or not. And
Yeah.
you know, that was when it gets a little.
Yeah. And so another part, because my mom mentioned that, and I was about to quote that as well. So his quote, and this is what he said on his podcast as well. If we would have said that Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racist. Now they're coming out and saying it for us. You don't have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go and be taken somewhat seriously. So let's focus on obviously there's a few issues with this. So let's talk about Michelle Obama specifically in this case. Michelle Obama is a two-time college graduate, Ivy League school graduate, one from Princeton and the other one from Harvard Law. And then she was able to get a job as a lawyer after that. Right. So the implication So the implication that she went and stole a white person's slot after obviously being qualified by that because she doesn't have the brain processing power. Right, is a little bit because obviously
that's political. That's where it gets political. You're talking politics with a politician and somebody who is a wannabe politician.
What's political about someone being qualified for a job and you're saying that she doesn't have the brain processing power to go and do that job?
Just like when they do political debates and they're yelling at each other, when you would hope both of them are qualified to run for president, right? But they're both talking about how they're not.
Right, sure, but what I'm saying is that if there's
a statement I can't say is racist.
If the
talking politics,
but
I wouldn't say it's racist.
If the qualifications are there, if I graduated from Harvard Law,
I don't think. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, but it's just the same thing with a presidential debate. Both of them are qualified to be the president of the United States, right?
So what are the qualifications to be president? Besides,
we vote for him,
right? So
who knows?
That's the problem there. But when we're talking about things that we have a list of qualifications for, and the qualifications are clearly shown that she has them, but to say she doesn't have the brain processing power to be taken seriously, that's not a political statement.
Probably a little sexist too.
It's racist and sexist because he also talks about how if I'm dealing with somebody and when customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder if she's there because of her excellence or if she's there because of affirmative action. The idea that black women can do a customer service job which is obviously one of the first three jobs we
was, these ones in. I haven't seen I've seen some of them talking about race in like Chicago and crime and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but obviously I haven't seen them.
Yeah, that was, like I said, that was more so on his podcast. So he did, which I didn't watch it either. But these are obviously what I'm like I said, I saw a lot of both of those things. So these were the types of things that he was saying, and obviously, so when you say things like that, people start to get the notion that hey, this guy might be racist when you say things like that, right? So it's tough.
Yeah, you know I mean, I'm not saying everything he said was right. I have listened to a lot of things that I agree. I mean, religiously agreed with. There was also some things when I did watch a video when he was talking about DEI and he tried to bring in sports into it and was like talking about the NBA, like, oh, the NBA is predominantly black, a black league, right?
Yeah.
If we made it DEI and we have to hire in white people, we're not putting the best people out there, right? And then he started saying the same thing about the NFL.
Right, but once
and how
again,
it would affect ratings.
It's not that you have to hire them; it's that if they are qualified for the position, you don't not give it to them because of the color of their skin.
But at this point, if DEI is required, what do you mean you don't have to? Because at that point, you have to get a certain amount of DEI hires.
Correct, which is true.
You would have to,
but nobody
law. Just like law enforcement would have a quota to get a certain amount of arrest or tickets, and they like to say that they don't, but they do.
But there's nothing there that says that you shouldn't have that person shouldn't have the qualifications in order to do that.
Agree, but if it's like if DEI is a thing and it is required, now there's going to be enforcements of that. And a lazy ass company is just going to be like, yep, we'll hire you to meet our requirements. We'll hire you to meet our requirements.
Sure, but that's an indictment on the company itself.
Exactly.
But
I agree.
Right. So, like I said, my main thing that what I was more so getting to was that the difference between being Christian and Christ-like, right? Because obviously, like you say, and obviously, a lot of people say a lot of good things that sound good. Because I've seen some of those videos too, and I'm like, all right, so he doesn't sound like an insane person here,
Yeah.
But
Just
like you said,
just some of the things when it
so
goes in the race. Yeah.
right. So when we talk about, obviously, your walk with Christ is shown most with how you treat people. When
Mhm.
you talk about people in a certain manner like that, it's just like we talk about people in the church, obviously aren't perfect or aren't progressing, but they talk about how
Mhm.
you're so spiritual, but you're mean. You're mean to everybody.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not Christ-like.
And everybody's a sinner. Nobody's perfect.
Correct.
Think
So
we
so
always gotta, regardless of people's situation. And this isn't just talking about Charlie Kirk. This is talking
Yes,
about
everybody.
everybody. Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about people's walk with Christ, because everybody can claim Christian, we're in the Western Hemisphere where the predominantly, I don't know what the percentage is, but most people claim Christian. But
Mhm.
obviously, we know that Christian and Christ like are two different things. And so when you have that certain disdain for certain people, because even Jesus hung with those who hated him,
Mhm.
and even he
And
loved
who
the people
betrayed him?
who he was supposed to not like, right? Like
Yeah.
the woman at the well, they had beef
Yeah.
racially.
What do they call him? And he hung out with. What do they call it in the Bible? Who he hung out with?
What do you mean?
I don't know the biblical term for people like sinners.
Yeah, I, don't-
The biblical term for
I
it, though.
forgot what it was.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
don't
he
know.
was shunned for that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like
Mhm.
if your walk with Christ doesn't oppose you from having views
Mhm.
like this on certain groups of people, then that's when I have trouble, what I'm
Mhm.
saying, kind of getting behind something like that.
I agree too. Not to not to back up Charlie Kirk, but just to make a general statement.
Mhm.
You ha- I'm 31 years old.
You're getting
Same
up there.
age. Thank you.
Mhm.
Same age as Charlie Kirk when he died.
Mhm.
Cleon's 31 this year.
No, I am not.
Oh, dang.
No,
trying to
sir.
think. All
Don't
right.
give me that.
All right, Cleon's 30 this year.
Yes.
Damn, I'm really old. But I know I say things that, I'm probably like, all right, I probably shouldn't have said that. I
Mhm.
do say some crazy things sometimes. And it's like, all right, I probably shouldn't have said that. I know a lot of other 30-year-old, 31-year-olds that say some really stupid things that they
Mhm.
probably shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Not to, be like, oh, he's young and dumb. Obviously, he knows what he's doing and saying. But I feel like some of the stuff that you can say on that platform, like you're not fully meaning it. And
But
I hope
he said it in multiple places on multiple accounts. He meant that. You know what I'm saying?
maybe I
'Cause
say
you don't have a
I
thought.
say things a lot too, and
Yeah,
and
but
it's roasting because a lot of his debate. Have you seen some of his debates
well, the
in
debate, yeah, because they're not good. The debates itself with
they're
the people who
talking,
are
and it's
opposing
like
him,
and it's like locker room talk.
it's
It's
not
like,
good.
well, they're not all good, no,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's like locker room talk. It's like if me and you are having a debate, and there's like a funny joke, and this happens from my own friends. Like there's like a funny joke, they're going to bring up that joke that is degrading me, or
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
so like some of his conversations were like that. And now am I saying he's not racist? No, only he knows that. Am I saying that he's the great person? No. I said just from what I saw,
Mhm.
I think he's a decent human being. And that
Interesting.
anybody who dies, nobody should celebrate a death. Is he those things? I don't know, and I'll never know.
Mhm.
It's not my job to know. God knows his heart. That's his job, not
Mhm.
mine. That's God's job and not mine. One of the things that I really hope that he didn't fully 100% mean is when he talked about abortion in that.
Did you see when he talked about slavery?
No, I did not see that. I bet
So
that was racist too.
he said black people were better off as slaves because they committed less crime that way. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought, just in case you didn't see that, I thought I
That
should mention that.
but what do you mean better off though?
He said that they were better, as in basically they were better when they were in captivity, because
Who
they
was
committed.
better?
Black people
That's
were.
crazy.
That's was his exact word. Like I'm not even like, how people try to paraphrase.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, he basically
Right,
said no.
right.
That's was his verbatim. Black people were better as slaves because they committed less crime. That was his exact statement on that.
So it was probably it could have been on that same video where I was watching.
He was doing that was one of those round table things.
Oh, was it? I remember because I saw a video where he was talking about black crime and statistics, and of like black on black crime and talking
Which
about crap like that too. And that's always been a thing.
I hate crimes. I hate how crime statistics are presented as a whole.
Yeah, and that's
It's
just and yeah, he did because he was talking about how like there's only this percentage of black people, but they make up this amount of crime, and that's been a conservative
Forever.
viewpoint on in a lot of states that have a lot of high crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
But
That's a
my issue with how they're presented, because I'm a
Mhm.
person, as you know, I ask questions because I like context.
right.
So if we're going to talk about crime, let's talk
Mhm.
about crime, because the focus is always seems to be black crime.
Black
So
crime.
and I'm like, okay, so if black
Because
people
predominantly per capita they make up the most. That's what I did see a video when he was talking about that, and I was like, okay,
right.
kind of bold and ballsy to say, but I don't do the research on it.
Yeah. So
I just know that I try and protect myself wherever I'm at, wherever I go, regardless if you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever it may be. I'm always going to be on my P's and Q's when I'm out. It don't matter who you are, what color you are. Like,
yeah,
if I feel like you're a threat to me, then I'm gonna act accordingly.
I
It
agree.
don't matter.
Well, yeah,
And that's how everybody should.
they're just always very pinpointed in how they talk about
Mhm.
things. And like I said, I like context. And so when
Right.
people are talking about crime, I'm like, so let's hear all the bad ones, right? Let's
Yeah.
hear all the crimes, who's making up all the percentages of all these things, so we understand
I don't
kind of
think
what
that
this
they were
what this
made up.
is.
I think he got them from FBI.
No, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
we're made up. I'm talking about basically, like, if this group of people commits this amount of crimes, I want to know what percent everybody else commits. So I need to, that's how you can tell how good or bad something is in proximity.
And there was one thing that I agreed with him, and then I do want to talk about the abortion story. Was in regards to crime and fatherhood. He was saying, like, the biggest crime in the video is that how like having a family isn't rewarded by the government. Single moms get more money from the government than they would if they were a struggling mom in a relationship
right
with the father. So it's like promoting for them not to have dads, and not having a dad. And I can tell you, me growing up, if there were not father figures in my life could have drastically been worse. And it could have went down that road to being violent, criminal. Like, it really could have went down that road had I not had father figures, which is why, like, when I talk about having the nonprofit, like, that's why it's so important to me. So having a father figure, and those father figures would never change having a real father. So I think that that's the biggest crime, is that the government does reward that more than they reward a struggling family. Like, a kid growing up without a father is very detrimental to his future. Because even now at 31 years old, like, I really see, like, the difference in my life and how I respond and I react to things versus people who grew up having a father. It is what it is. Nothing could ever change that. Now, I did meet my dad. We have a good relationship. I don't ever hold any grudges. I met him when I was 20 years old, so I was already an adult at that point in time. So I 100% agree with that viewpoint. And I think, or I know, that having fathers in these kids' lives will eliminate more crime. 100%. If you have a father figure, it would do that. Because I know it did it for me. It literally, I mean, I maybe saved my life or kept me on the right path mentally to not get involved with bad things and bad people. So that is one viewpoint I did definitely agree with.
So on that topic, right? Because I was, and I might be wrong on statistic, because I can't remember it off the top of my head.
We're mostly opinion based guys. We just want to make sure we read some stuff that people say and stuff like that, but they're not. We just know that we have conversations based on how we feel and our own opinions.
Yeah. So statistically, based on 2023, the National Fatherhood Initiative reported that 47.5% of Black children live without a resident father. All right. Now, obviously it's almost half, right? And that's like you said, that's certainly a large contributor, because not having that guidance creates a problem. Now, on the other end of that, talking about this, like I said, always in proximity, right? Because I like context. So about 20% of white children live without their biological fathers, right? Now, like you said, I guess per capita versus overall number, and when it comes to crime, is obviously important. But when we talk about the correlation between having fathers in the household and between the correlation between that and
Mhm.
crime being committed, um, overall, when it comes to violent crimes, obviously murder, rape, aggravated assault, I don't know if it's based on population, but
Mhm.
percentage wise, there's still more of that going on from not black, but white people contribute to more of that, even with
Mhm.
more fathers in the home.
Mhm.
So it's I agree that there's a correlation, but it kind of makes me also think
Well,
about what the guidance
criminals are
looks
going
like.
to, yeah,
Criminals are going to be
right.
that regardless.
Just like the person who allegedly shot Charlie Kirk, he grew up with both parents. Like
Grew up with
people
both
are
of it.
right.
Yeah.
These criminals are going to be criminals. I agree. The statistic, and this is why I'm creating a nonprofit literally on this
Mhm.
because there is a statistic correlated, and I haven't done research in a couple months on it, so I'm not going to say any numbers or anything. But there is a statistic correlated with crime and not having a father, not growing up with a father figure,
Mhm.
which is why, especially in our community in Tampa, there is a need for that. And that's why, like, there is a passion for me to do that, is because I know that creating a mentorship program, creating a finding fathers, creating a father figure in somebody's life can deter them
Mhm.
from making worse decisions down the road. And it doesn't mean that if you don't have a dad, you're going to be serial criminal or a
Mhm.
serial killer. It doesn't mean that, no.
Yeah, yeah.
But a positive male role model
Mhm.
can impact a young adolescent male's life for good because
Yeah.
it did mine.
And I think that you're correct. And
Mhm.
I think that there's obviously among that, but obviously a large other things that can be helped out. Like you said, what the government incentivizes is
Mhm.
unfortunately a single parent household.
Yep.
So when it comes to things like this, if especially in those communities where a lot of crime is being committed, uh, crime it's like we what we talk about in our lives here. The best way for us to not go out to do anything stupid is to stay busy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think the problem is that a lot of these areas there aren't any funding for things like after school programs. There aren't any places for
Yeah.
kids to be. So when there aren't there, it's like when you have a toddler, if the toddler's too quiet, you know that there's something that's
Mhm.
going on. There's trouble that's happening.
And that's
So
why it's important for your local government elections, which is why my pastor was running for District 5, because
mhm,
District 5 is part of downtown, but it's also part of Jackson Heights,
yeah,
which is a lower income area where they need all these resources. But there's a
which is so
budget.
crazy, by the way, because
There's a
the right
budget.
across the street, the richest part of Tampa and one of the poorest parts of Tampa looking at each
So
other.
what are they doing? There's a budget allocated for that area. Why is it not being used
Mhm,
for the whole area?
right. Right.
Is your
And
white
I
and
know
black?
that area
Yeah.
is generating a bunch of money, but
Why is it
obviously
not being put back into it?
because
So
the
that's why
rich
it's
people
going.
control
It's
the money.
exactly. So that's why it's going to take people creating these nonprofits and giving an F and going into the community to help these kids
Right.
have a better life, and that's going to ultimately impact your community and make it better.
Ideally.
30 years, hopefully, right? 30 years down the road, like that's what I want it to be. People talking about, hey, like this guy's program helped me be a successful
Mhm.
business owner
Yeah.
in Gasworks, whatever it may be, and help positively impact the community that we're in. Um, doesn't mean I agree with how he went over all that stuff, but that's just my opinion on that and why that nonprofit was created is to help people
Mhm.
that are in those situations. Because had I not had it with my two best friends and their father, who knows, man? Now my two best friends, like their fathers were really big in my life because we all played football together.
Mhm.
Um, Mama Dio says, I don't see it. Let me focus it on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I not put it on there?
I-
All right, there we go. I don't see it as rewarding single mothers. It is a support system for when fathers fail to support their children, that single mothers will be able to pay bills and survive. I agree. It's like
Basically, I
I don't
think
have enough information on it to debate it.
I just wish
So
more like I just wish that when there were two parents in the household, they had access to
mhm.
that same amount of because you
Yeah,
know what I'm saying.
exactly. Yeah.
But
So
I guess
maybe
the
yeah.
government sees it as two people because I don't even know. I still to this
But
day I
hold
don't
on.
understand how the
When we
taxes work.
sold life insurance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There and this is why like being like in your walk with God is so important too because This is 100. We sold life insurance, right?
Yeah,
And we sold life insurance in the hood sometimes.
all the
They're
time.
just popping out kids because they know they keep getting government assistance as well. They were legit do that. Like they legit told me. And that's what they live off is that tax return and then that money that they get from the government. They don't care about creating a home, creating a family. Their baby daddies, is like their friend. They never had intention for him to stay and be a father and stay in the household and create that a family environment. People have literally told me that as I'm selling them life insurance. So it's like people do see it and take advantage of it. So it's a
Well, yeah, I think what she's
could be a
saying
double-edged
is
sword
on the
but
father side. Obviously, you have a certain
and
responsibility to obviously not procreate with people that you don't intend on having a family environment with, right?
I agree. I'm not trying to blame it on the
Yeah,
women.
yeah. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that, but
You
yeah,
know I
it's
love women, so
yeah, it's,
it's always the male's fault for putting
well,
it in places it shouldn't be, my man.
I wouldn't. I don't. Always is strong. But
90% of the time, also made up statistic.
yeah, right. Well, yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, in that
Mhm.
case, obviously, where people are failing to support their children, then yeah, obviously they need that extra assistance.
Yeah, I agree.
But obviously, I think, like you talk about in terms
Mhm.
of your elected officials choosing where money is going to be allocated to. Obviously, if it was, it would be nice for it to be because not everybody can have a job when they're making enough money to sustain, and how living prices are consistently going up and wages are staying the same.
Everything's going up. House prices, inflation,
I've been
and
looking at
wages.
houses, Brandon,
I ain't looking at no house right now.
I'm not an emotional guy by any
Yeah.
stretch of the imagination. It's
Mhm.
halfway depressing looking at how much
you're gonna have
houses
to
cost.
get them in like outskirts area, my man. And
Yeah, I know. You see how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where obviously if we're paying obviously taxes on our paychecks that are coming in, and obviously everything that we pay for when we're going out, we're paying taxes on property. When that stuff comes back to us, it would be nice for it to be in the form of something that's going to help support a family together. I know the implication is that you guys have two people
Mhm.
there. Why do you need additional help from us? But at the end of the day, they're not giving us much
Mhm.
to work with in general.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's just life, man. Life be life, man. So find Christ and follow Christ, man. That's the best answers I can give for you guys because life is going to continue to be life, and there's going to be people you don't like, people you like. It's just how it happens. Mama Deal also said affirmative action primarily helps white women to get jobs. Are at the top of the list while African Americans are at the bottom of the list.
Mm.
Yeah, what's new?
so which is
So, yeah,
interesting.
that's life.
Because obviously,
It's. I'm not saying it's right, but it's just
well, it's one of those things because obviously the push
Mhm.
was that DEI was meant to hire more black people, but obviously
right.
if they're not even the ones benefiting from it the most, then why is that being the statistic? Why is that being the thing that's focused on?
hmm
You know what I'm saying? That obviously makes that tough.
It's just everybody wants to have an opinion, and there's no. That's why.
Well, that's what and that's my problem
Bring
with
back
opinions. We need facts, and if obviously when we go and look at the numbers,
most of it
things
is
like that are
opinion.
true. Well, in fact, obviously, I'm talking about
Right.
statistically. If that's what the case is, then it's like, okay, well, then why is that the opinion when the fact is this?
hmm
That's why you can't listen to
Because
everybody.
It's because people have one thought, and then somebody else confirms that ideology, thought, and belief, and they believe it even more.
Two
You
dummies
know?
telling each other exactly.
Yeah, and this is where you create such the division and then the divide. There are two things that I did disagree with, and the first thing was the abortion thing. The second was God, and I can't remember. We literally were just talking about it a little bit. Charlie Kirk had said something,
Okay, so
but let's talk about the abortion because this is also a crazy
oh
thing.
yeah, he said something outrageous. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it is also outrageous. It was another thing outrageous that he had said, but maybe it'll come back to me. But about the abortion and when rapes happen.
Yeah.
I've always been pro-choice.
Mhm.
Biblically, that is incorrect. I've always been pro-choice because
Does the Bible reference abortion specifically?
Mama Dio, do you got any answers for that?
Because I do hear that, but I have always wondering what because they use the do not kill, but I don't know
right.
but I don't know where in the Bible
I've
it
always
talks
been
about that.
pro-choice.
Yeah.
And the reason being in there, I mean, there is a counter argument of like, stop having sex, right? Stop having
Sure.
premarital unprotected sex.
Yeah.
That is the counter argument
Yeah.
always. You know how long it took me to stop having sex? It took 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Well.
Okay, all right. Well, since I started, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it took me that long in my walk with Christ to it's still hard for me to not do it. I mean, I haven't done it in a year now, but it's like I get the urges and the temptation and the lust all the time to want to do it. So that's a very hard argument because as human beings in this day and age, it is hard to not have sex. So I agree. But the fact that he was like, when it comes to rape, in that he would, which any man in their right mind, if he's a father and your 9-year-old daughter gets raped, you're not going to make her keep the baby. I don't care how many times he said that. Yeah. Absolutely.
If that were to there's no way. But
you think his wife would allow? Come on. I hope in his heart he was only saying that to prove a point, because I think that is insane.
That's even a larger problem, right? Just saying it to prove a point.
No, because I can't say any names, but I know plenty of people that will be wrong to the grave and think that they're right. That's just how people operate, and we can't be surprised with how people operate. Yeah. We can't be surprised with people operating how we don't operate.
Sure,
just how it is.
It just but what I'm saying, it would be outrageous to say it to prove a point if you don't actually believe that. If you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I agree and I don't agree, but regardless of the fact that is an outrageous,
it's insane,
an outrageous point. I have been pro-choice. Reading the Bible, I lean, and being older, obviously I lean a little bit more towards pro-life. But I'm also situational, because I know had I had a kid at an early age, it probably would have been a blessing. And now I do want to have a kid. So God willing, when it's the right time, it's the right time. Had I had a kid at 18 or something, my life would have been drastically different. And it would have been a lot, maybe more difficult. Who knows? I don't know. It wasn't in the books for it to happen. I didn't have an option. So there wasn't, there never had, a situation never arose where I needed to make a decision. I just knew up until a certain age that if it did happen, I was going to that Family First clinic, whatever they call them things. I was going to be there. Yeah. How did it happen? That was already in my head. It wasn't going to be like, I'm going to have this kid and pawn it off on my mom and have it take care of it, even though that's what she was trying to tell me to do. I was like, nah, I ain't having this thing. Yeah. Up until a certain age. Now you get older, you used to be like, okay, I can take care of a kid. If something else happened, I'll be all right.
Right. Well, my thing is that because especially on that point, in a country where we talk so much about the rights and the liberties that we have, the idea that people would be against having the option. You can debate on whether you think it's right or wrong, but debate on whether you should have the option in a country where we're so vocal about having our rights and our liberties to do what the free world. It just seems odd to me that people would fight to have to be able to not, what I'm saying, that's odd to me, because we want rights to everything else.
I agree. That's probably my most liberal view is free pro-choice, and it's been like that forever, because like at the end of the day, we can't control people to do certain things, and if they don't want to do it, then they don't have to.
They're gonna do it regardless, and if they're gonna go somewhere and do it unsafely,
let them do it safely. I agree. I definitely 100% agree with that. It was funny. It just makes me think about when they're arguing on not the rape and abortion topic, but just abortion in general. She's like, it's just a clump of cells. And he's like, you're a clump of cells. I'm a clump of cells. It's like, yeah, well, technically, but
and that's the thing, obviously, because it's like the whole,
that's going to be a debate to the end of time,
which maybe it will. But I guess my thing is that obviously they talk about you're taking the life of somebody away. Now, like you said, because the example that's consistently used is that if somebody is raped and they get pregnant as a result of that rape, you shouldn't be able to take the life of the child because that's murder. And my question is always, okay, so if we care a lot about people's lives, then how about the person of the life who got raped and is now pregnant with that child? Do we care about their life too?
What are you doing to help her life?
You're right.
You're going to be funding the kid for 18 years?
Right. Are you going to take them through the therapy? Because they now every time they look at that child,
exactly, yeah,
they know that the way
and
that this child
he was like, you could put it up for adoption, but I at that point,
have you seen the foster system? The foster system is so overcrowded right
it's
now,
not good anyways,
and
yeah.
people's in the way that people are doing, there's overcrowded group homes. I'm like, that's not a good option. But also, it's always people who aren't adopting children to say go adopt the children. You go adopt. So if you're gonna talk like that, you should have
eventually. I think I probably will if I don't end up having a wife and family. I'll just adopt a kid, and we'll be good to go. Oh, Mama said something.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was saying.
I think they lean on scripture, thou shalt not kill. The issue I have is that men think they should make laws that decide what women should do with their bodies.
Yeah.
I agree. I've always been pro-choice. As I get older, I lean to the pro-life thing, but it's always been situational to me. So it's like, it depends on the situation. Like, when I had my situation a couple years ago, I was like, you should probably not have it. But if you do, I'm gonna be there,
I think that that's a good point. But I think that's how a lot of people operate, is that I feel this way about this thing until this happens. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I have trouble with, because obviously for me, I'm like, you should either feel this way about, I know everything is situational, circumstantial. But if you're gonna feel a way about something, you should feel the way about it, and not just, what I'm saying, not just when something happens to you to affect you. Hey, I don't want nothing to do with this. This is very bad. But if this joint happens to me, though, we getting out of there. I'm like, well, come on,
So, I mean, he stood on what he believed, and that's what he did. And
I outrageous at times.
I agree. I did see some outrageous things. Most of the stuff I saw wasn't that outrageous, but obviously, I've had 3 days. I had to stop consuming what you guys were putting out there, because godly, man, I have to worry about my own mental health, because some of the stuff people are saying, I'm like, and then I'm like, I don't want to even look at this stuff anymore.
It's just because it's just content.
There was something else I didn't agree with. I'm trying to think of what it was before we get off here. Any other as I'm trying to think about this, any other final thoughts that you got on this specific topic?
Well, while you're thinking about that, I'll get on my soapbox a little bit here. What I saw a lot of is that people talked about him expressing his views, having a difference of opinion, and people hated him for having a difference of opinion. And obviously we're humans. Everybody's going to have a difference of opinion. But when it comes to things, especially with these racial topics, the question that I have is that, when does a difference of opinion teeter over to prejudice? When do we decide that is? Because obviously when you say certain things about certain groups of people, like, oh, well, that's just his opinion. You can't get mad at somebody for having a different opinion than you. It's like, well, me personally, being a black man, I'm like, I don't think that's what they're mad at. Because it's like, if you feel like tax dollars should be spent on funding schools, and I feel like it should be on funding roads, we have a difference of opinion. I'm not going to hate you for that. It is what it is. But if your stance on it is that this group of people are not qualified because of the color of their skin, that's where I have trouble labeling it as a difference of opinion. But when we think about it, racism all started with an opinion. The opinion that somebody with a different skin color was less than because of their skin color. It all started there. So the issue is that opinion grows into a belief. That belief turns into an action, and then that action turns into you inspiring other people, like he did, to feel that way as well. And then that's how we end up in a system that is built to hold those people down, because it started off with the opinion that I think that they're less than me. So when we have these issues and these controversial figures, I think we have to be mindful of what we're labeling as a difference of opinion.
And that was the other thing, was the white privilege thing. But to speak on that very, very openly and freely, there's always going to be racism. As much as obviously black people are racist, or we can't call it racist. I'm gonna call it what it is. They're racist. White people are racist. They call it the politically correct term of they can't call it racist. I don't know.
Prejudice.
Yeah, black people can't be racist. They can only be prejudiced, something like that. And I think that people are always going to have those conflicting viewpoints. if you can't be in a room and work together with somebody or get to know like the content of their character, as MLK always said, like there's always going to be bad people. Yes. There's always
Mhm.
going to be racist people. Yes. But you can't let those people decide how you act and operate, because there are good people and there's always going to be good people
Mhm.
of a different background, color,
Yeah.
race, gender than you are. And there's going to be good people, and you can't let your mind stop you or be influenced by other people who are racist. So that way you just be like, you just cut off a certain demographic of people or a
Mhm.
certain race or a certain gender, whatever it may be. There's always going to be those kind of people. And I say that black people can be racist too, is because when I went to jail, this is the funniest thing. I can make friends with anybody anywhere. And
Mhm.
what was I doing in jail? Making friends with anybody anywhere. It was just really funny to see. I was safe. I was good.
Mhm.
But there was like another super there was another white guy who was like trying to act black. You know, when you see those guys that like with would,
Stereotypically, yes, I do.
yeah, they just trailer trash white guys. Sorry. Yeah, I used to be there. I can say that. And I'm white. And then the Hispanic people in there, bro, it was hilarious. I'm not gonna say exactly what they said, but it was just hilarious. And people can say racist things and not be racist too. I do that sometimes. I don't say full on very derogatory terms, but I do make stereotypical jokes. And I'll be the first one to tell you, and I'll be the first one to tell you that joke to your face and laugh with you about it. And people can say them to me, and that's just how it is. He did say one thing that I never agreed with, or that I don't agree with. He said that there's no such thing as white privilege, because he's like, do you have the same opportunity as me? If we set our mind to it, we can do anything, right? But there are hindrances to what people can and can't do. And sometimes those hindrances occur when there's somebody racist of the
Right.
opposite color. So that's going to stop you.
Right.
Therefore, white privilege becomes a thing.
So the point that you just made, right?
Mhm.
That's the difference between being racist and being prejudiced. That's why they say black people can't be racist, is because there's no social power behind it.
Okay. So
Because
because there's no
because institutions, because they're racist,
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
people don't get opportunity. So that's the difference between racism and prejudice.
Mhm.
Prejudice, I don't like you. Racism says you can't get this job because of this. You're not going to elevate.
Okay.
Like the
So I'm prejudiced.
so no
Oh.
so like those people who were I don't know if you saw, but
Mhm.
I think they were suing because of house appraiser. So they had
Mhm.
someone come in, a black couple came and had somebody give them an appraisal on their house. I think they gave them like $300,000, something like that. They had their same white friend show that same house, and the appraisal is now up $300,000 from the original time when they showed it.
Mm.
Difference between prejudice
So that's
and racism,
racist or
because
prejudice.
now you're keeping me from
Yeah,
a
yeah.
from a percentage of wealth for me being
Mhm.
able to exceed in opportunity and
Mhm.
things of that nature. So that's the difference, is the social system around what you're able to do. I cannot like you,
Mhm.
but I can't do anything to keep you from
Mhm.
getting, you know what I'm saying? But as a social system, when obviously the people at the top, if they have a different view of somebody like me, I don't get to advance because of that.
And unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. So make sure you use your white friends accordingly. So that way they can do that for you. And if you're in that situation, help you out.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, that is the world that we live in.
It
Like
yes, it's very
there
unfortunate.
is, and there's going to be people that are racist and that'll do little things like that. So make use your friends. I don't know, use your friends. That's just how that unfortunately how the world is. And only thing that I can say is that hopefully his life or death just inspires more people to get closer to God, regardless of the politics, the race, all that crap that the world be throwing at us. Just use this opportunity to get closer to God with everything that's going on. Because at the end of the day, nothing that you complete on this world is going to really matter. The biggest thing that really matters is, are we going to be written in the book of life and have eternal life with Christ, or are we going to be thrown into the lake of fire?
Right.
So act accordingly
Mhm.
while we're here for the short period of time.
And try to make sure that your walk with Christ emulates Christ and not just the religion of Christianity.
And he wasn't racist. So if you're racist, there's already step one.
There it is.
Maybe, I mean, he wasn't prejudiced. So, and he wasn't making race jokes. So you better stop doing those, Brandon. Who did that?
Jesus, yeah, we're gonna have to pray for you.
Yeah, nah. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly,
Yeah.
we got the Oreo cookie that we be doing a podcast with every single day, bro. We're yin and yang over here. Make jokes, but ultimately, just like the famous quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is judge and treat people based off the content of their character, not the color of their skin, because it's just stupid to do. And get closer to God. That's all you got to do. There's going to be, unfortunately, there's going to be crazy people out there. There's going to be racist people out there, sexist, prejudice. I do say some sexist jokes sometimes, but women, you know, I love you. But other than that, any other final thoughts you got on this topic?
With I just want people to
Mhm.
be more ideally more centered.
Mhm.
And centered
It'd be nice.
on a
It would
bunch
be
of
nice, yeah.
stances
Mhm.
on just how you operate in everyday life. Take the time to really figure things out before
Mhm.
you speak, and try your best. I know it's very hard to be consistent in your everyday life and the
Mhm.
views that you have and how you feel like things should happen, because obviously I don't know if you know, but 2 actual Democratic lawmakers were murdered not too long ago.
Mm.
Actual
What the media likes to hide from us.
right, actual political violence, and
Mhm.
not just somebody who had conservative views and a podcast.
Mhm.
They were murdered, and it didn't make anywhere near the amount of headlines
Of
as
course.
something like this.
Mhm.
And so, if we're calling for the heads of people who did something like
Mhm.
this to your favorite podcaster because you feel like it was because of the views that they had, then
Mhm.
make sure that you feel that same way about the people who actually had governmental seats,
Yeah.
who were also murdered. You know what I'm saying? That
Mhm.
because if you care about the government that much, if you love it all, then
And
choose
yeah,
that.
yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Like, if you care about somebody dying, I mean, you should care more about everybody dying. Like, at the end of the day, like, murder is murder and it's bad. And if somebody, this guy gets murdered and this guy gets murdered, and you're like, oh, I'm only going to care about this person because he's white, and this person is murdered and he's black, then that's your own internal issue that you got to deal with, and should be aware of that issue.
Right.
Other than that, what a crazy week. I hope you guys stay safe. The only thing I can say is I hope that this death and this week brings you guys closer to God. If you want to come to church with me every Sunday, 9:30 a.m., shoot me a DM, be Haley 10 on Instagram or Real Deal Convos. But other than that, we appreciate you guys hanging out, tuning in, listening. Once again, these are our own thoughts and opinions. It doesn't make it correct. We have viewpoints and we have conflicting viewpoints, and that's why we're here. And that's why we're here. We're here to yap. Mostly about relationships, but when things like this happen and current events happen, we like to talk about them. So other than that, we appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in to episode 50.